This week on Arizona Illustrated, Practicing Faith.
We've really been stretched, I think, as a community to say that the mission of what we do is extremely important, and how do we continue that?
The Two-Spirit Powwow.
We knew as Indigenous people there's more than a man and a woman. There's a third gender, there's a fourth gender in some tribes.
Tumamoc Hill Reopens.
I'm ecstatic about it. We've been waiting a while to come back up here. Definitely good news.
And the making of a Metalhead Scientist.
They're this weird, asocial, nerdy, we only listen to classical music while sipping champagne. There are a lot more Metalhead Scientists than you think.
Welcome to Arizona Illustrated. I'm Tom McNamara. We're here on the University of Arizona campus where summer classes for thousands of students were set to begin May 18th. But like spring semester, graduation, and end-of-year activities, those plans were dramatically altered by the coronavirus pandemic. Talks among university leaders, the Board of Regents, and state officials are currently underway as to when and how to reopen in the fall and what that may look like. All across the country, state and local communities are reopening, with different parts of our community seeking to find a balance between re-engaging in public spaces and trying to keep ourselves and others safe. We spoke with two local faith leaders in Tucson to hear how they and their communities are coping.
When the governor lifted the quarantine and we're preparing to move into a first phase of reopening, I think a lot of people got really excited, but then very quickly got disappointed because they were realizing, oh, there's going to be reopening, but it's not going to be what we thought. In places that are opening, that it will be so different.
When we knew about this pandemic in March, I told my community, please start from now, don't shake, don't hug, don't kiss. We don't want this reflection come to other human beings, and protect yourself, your family, your community. Stay in your home and keep your body healthy.
Our doors are closed on the outside, but church is happening on the inside, and that's difficult, you know, just because, I mean, you get so used to the cool thing about Newman Center is that students come and they hang out, and it's been really, really sad not to be able to have that ability. Sunday's always our most active day, and so it's really wonderful just to kind of see the many, you know, mostly students, but really the various reflections of our community. Like, so again, the whole idea of people not being able to be here, you know, we really miss that.
I miss our community, you know, because every month here we have every day more than 400, 500, they come together and eat with each other without any, this is rich man or this is poor man or this is doctor or this is farmer. All of them, they are equal because all of them, they came with the same heart.
We miss seeing you very much. We love you. We look forward to... We've had to be very, very proactive just about learning virtual ministry, but it's been a real blessing for us. I mean, we began with our masses online, and then also all of our appointments, because a lot of campus ministry is appointments with students. So we've really been stretched, I think, as a community to say that the mission of what we do is extremely important, and how do we continue that?
One brother, he told me, why close the masajid? This is not your house. I told him, yes, this is not my house. But my job for protect you and protect our community, our mosque from this pandemic. This pandemic is not a joke.
So I'm hoping somehow that as we continue to navigate these crazy times, we continue to learn how to listen, how to cooperate, how to love, you know, how to think. Kind of that this pause and the sense of not always feeling in control doesn't just lead us to spin out of control and become more paranoid, but maybe more deeply aware of just how precious life is.
Traditionally, powwow categories are listed with the gender binary women and men. However, many tribes recognize more than two genders. Earlier this year, we attended the second annual Two-Spirit Powwow held at South Mountain Community College in Phoenix, where the Powwow Committee decided to remove gender from all categories. The gathering was hosted by Native PFLAG, an organization with the goal of keeping families together and fostering the traditional teachings of what it means to be Two-Spirit. They envision a world where diversity is celebrated and all people are respected, valued, and affirmed, inclusive of their sexual orientation, gender identity, and gender expression.
Dancers, come on out! Time to dance.
A powwow is basically a social gathering. We come and dance, show our regalia, show our beauty, and dance to wonderful music that has meaning, has spiritual meaning. Almost like a blessing. I feel that there's this big old bubble of spiritual energy just surrounding us. And of course, we have our ancestors here that are pretty much dancing alongside us.
Today, we are having our second annual Two-Spirit Powwow. Last year, we had our first. We got a grant from the Pride organization for Phoenix.
Last year we had about 24 dancers, and this year we have 64.
Traditionally, powwow is something that is very gender biased. So we kind of wanted to erase gender, and we kind of wanted to create a safe space for Two-Spirit individuals.
Thank you, Standing Horse dancers.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ian Austin. I am Mr. Southwest Two-Spirit. I'm also part of the Powwow Committee. I really wanted to say something specifically to the Two-Spirit community that is here with us today. I want to let you know that this was created for you, a safe space for you, a place that you can go and you can feel welcomed and you can feel safe and you're free to be who you want to be. The phrase Two-Spirit, that was coined back in 1990, so it's a relatively new term. And it was from elders within the community that were at a powwow, and the powwow didn't have a dance for them.
It's someone who is able to help wherever needed in a village or community. So, but they were also someone who just feels that they are both men and women together.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tate Hitler. I'm your current reigning Miss Supreme Pride 2020 and your current reigning Miss Apache Diva forever.
It really depends on where you hear it and who tells you about it. I heard the traditional term from my tribe. My grandpa used to call me it when I was younger. It's not derogatory, but I didn't know what it was growing up. I didn't know that he knew that I wasn't going to be the average child. My tribe, the Two-Spirit roles they had were taking items and information from the men to the women. So he would say, go tell this to that.
We knew as Indigenous people there's more than a man and a woman. There's a third gender, there's a fourth gender in some tribes. I'm Navajo, and in the Navajo way, LGBT people had a place in our tribes. And because of colonization and religion, unfortunately, we lost those teachings. So my organization, Native PFLAG, we are bringing back those traditional teachings.
Good afternoon, my name is Vanessa Losi. I am the currently reigning Miss International Two-Spirit. I just want to say that the first time I won a title, I was in boarding school. I was 14 years old, and things were so different back then. We used to have to lock ourselves in a room and hide and perform our pageant before the dorm attendants came in to check rooms. And so it's really something to see all of this happening and to be able to be here.
I came from a really small town. We made fun of it, and it was bad. That was like the education that I got.
Back in the 80s and 90s, we didn't come out.
If this Two-Spirit Powwow was here and there was any type of visibility for anybody Two-Spirit, transgender, or gay, it would have made my life so much easier growing up.
I found out my daughter was dating a girl, and I talked to her about it. I wasn't prepared for that discussion at all. That day that I found out, it ended in both of us crying. I didn't understand. That same day I asked my son, and at first he denied it, and then later he said, yeah, Mom, I'm gay too. And that was the beginning of my education. My daughter said some things to me I'll never forget. She says, Mom, why would I do this when I know society's gonna be against me? She also said she wasn't gonna tell me until she got to college because she didn't want to be a disappointment. And that's really hard for me to even think about that to the day because she's amazing. And I realized that I hadn't made a safe space in my own family, my own home, for her to be who she is. And so when I started learning more about the community and all the challenges and all the things that are against the community, I said, I gotta do something. I have to do something. Two-Spirit people were healers, they were medicine people, they were mediators, they were part of our culture. They have been for years and years. We have to bring that back because there should be no shame in being LGBT or Two-Spirit. There should be no shame in that. In the Navajo culture, we say that it's a blessing to have, extra special blessing to have a child who is LGBT, and I could totally agree with that because I've gotten so many blessings from my children.
To find out more about Native PFLAG and the Two-Spirit Powwow, visit nativepflag.org. Coronavirus infections and deaths have swept through the Navajo Nation at an alarming rate. With an already vulnerable population of more than 173,000 across 3 states, it is the hardest hit community per capita in the U.S. Large parts of the nation experience energy, food, and healthcare scarcity and limited access to water. Our colleagues at PBS NewsHour filed this report in April.
Even the younger people on Navajo Nation have worse health outcomes.
We are seeing some patients that are not over 60 that are coming in with severe COVID illness and they almost all have comorbid conditions.
Dr. Diana Hu has been working at the Tuba City Regional Healthcare Center for more than 30 years. The pediatric ward where she normally works has been turned into a respiratory clinic, as has much of the hospital since COVID-19 struck.
It was actually almost more like a tsunami when this first started in the middle of March, where we had 9 or 10 people getting sick in a day that had to be flown out for tertiary care. We get maybe 1 or 2 a day, and it's real obvious when they're sick, unfortunately.
Many Native American hospitals are not equipped for multiple severe ventilator cases. For now, patients are airlifted to facilities in Phoenix and Flagstaff. But Dr. Hu and her colleagues are bracing for an overwhelming surge.
If you know any nurses that want to come work up here, we'd love to have them.
The University of California, San Francisco sent 14 nurses and 7 physicians to Navajo Nation to help. The most pressing shortage has been personnel.
If you look at our statistics, which are per capita, it's outrageous. The biggest issue I think that we have with the federal government structure, the coordination is pitting tiny places like us against states, against other hospitals, and the coordination is being left up to the states, which is very difficult when you have something like the Navajo Nation.
Navajo Nation has one of the highest rates in the country of COVID-19 on a per capita basis, behind only New York and New Jersey. In Arizona, about 20% of deaths from COVID-19 have been Native Americans, when they make up only 5% of the state's population.
As part of our effort to help inform and educate our community on best practices, how to stay safe, and coping with the myriad of challenges we all face during this time, Arizona Public Media has produced a series of public service announcements. In this PSA, we hear from University of Arizona professor and virologist, Dr. Felicia Goodrum.
The most effective way to protect ourselves against COVID-19 is by the simple practices of hand washing and social distancing, keeping 6 feet between you and other people, and especially avoiding people that are coughing or sneezing, and staying home when we're sick. Social distancing is important with COVID-19 because many people can spread the virus without having symptoms. One thing that's important to know about COVID-19 as a virus is that it has a membrane envelope that surrounds the outside of the virus. That makes the virus very fragile and susceptible to being killed by simple detergents, soap and water with hand washing, or a dilute solution of bleach. In that regard, we have a lot of power in being able to protect ourselves against this particular virus.
Tumamoc Hill, the popular and iconic walking and exercise destination on Tucson's west side, reopened to the public on May 25th after being closed on March 17th due to concerns over the spread of the coronavirus. Now, the hill is reopened, but new protocols are in place that call for wearing a mask, limiting groups to 3 or less, and staying at least 6 feet apart from others. So now, while hundreds are ascending Tumamoc Hill once again, we spoke with several people who say they're glad to be back.
I'm ecstatic about it. We've been waiting a while to come back up here. We usually try to hike it at least twice a week, so it's definitely good news.
I am thrilled that Tumamoc is open. It's a spot that some coworkers and I hike every Tuesday about the same time for probably 7 years.
I'm glad Tumamoc's open. People have been cooped up inside. This is a great way people can easily social distance. It's a great hike. It's good exercise, sunlight for everybody. So I think this is a good thing.
Can't be too cautious, but I mean, being outside in the sun with the heat, wearing a mask will definitely be a challenge. But I know it does get pretty crowded up here, so definitely follow the rules.
I'm here, I'm wearing the mask, but I think that being outside here, you're able to social distance enough to where I think that this is not necessary, but I understand why they're in place and it's important to keep people safe, so we're doing it.
The University of Arizona is a world-renowned research institution populated with students, teachers, and researchers pursuing higher learning, trying to solve the big questions in science and innovation. But are they all the same, cut from the same cloth, listen to the same music, wear the same clothes? This is the story of a U of A student scientist who is breaking the mold and charting her own path.
Sometimes people think that you should just instantly be good at things, and that keeps them from doing something. I mean, I've done that. Oh. As a person, I'm not even really sure how to describe myself. I was always into the art. I was always into like alternative things like tattoos. One of my first ones, it was supposed to be the time that I was born, but my mom told me the wrong time. So I had my first beer when I was 14. After that, I was always just like kind of an animal. Just wanted to be all over the place. I moved around a lot, just because I wanted to move around a lot. I lived in Olympia, Washington for a few months. Then I moved to Montana with my parents, because I had no money. I worked at a fish processing plant doing quality control in Alaska for a few summers. Brutal. And that's when I decided to go to school in Hawaii. And so I went to school on and off for a few years. My parents told me that my college fund was running out, and then I was like, I didn't know what that meant for me. I had no real goals with what I wanted to do with my life. I didn't care about a lot of things. I didn't have any real goals with what I wanted to do with my life even when I moved down here. I was like, I want to be an osteologist, and then that didn't work out. So I went to phlebotomy school, and I worked in a hospital for 1.5 years. And then I was like, this sucks. I started to see all the waste and contamination that comes even with just the medical field. And I decided to go into environmental science.
When I met her in the lobby downstairs, she was wearing an Iron Maiden shirt. Immediately I was like, oh cool, this worked out good.
That was when I was like, this is Paul. This will be cool.
So we've had a tough week in the lab. It's like in The Matrix when Neo's on the top of the building and he's gonna try and fly for the first time. We got the fall out of the way. You know, the next one we're gonna fly. Be like Neo, that should be our lab motto. Yeah. The next shirt, we could put that on there. I think that there's this stereotype that scientists are somehow a little bit more refined in their tastes, but I don't think that's necessarily true.
Scientists to the outside world. They're this weird, asocial, nerdy, we only listen to classical music while sipping champagne. There are a lot more Metalhead Scientists than you think. Which I didn't know either. Paul is also a metalhead. Little known fact.
For pH 5, it's going to be potassium dihydrogen phosphate. Brenna's someone that stands out. And I'll show you that today in the lab. When she started working with one of our more challenging projects, probably the most challenging project, she picked it up really fast. How are the bradyrhizobium doing?
I've made everything except the... I went into microbiology, this lab, without any real knowledge of microbiology. Bright yellow. Like, just from the get-go. I was like, this is really cool. It's like finding out the secrets of life.
Arizona's a really unique place. Scientifically, it's really cool because we're by a number of mountain ranges. We can sample most of the year, but this looks good. Yeah, so I think if we just dig a plot right through here.
I like learning about the processes behind all the science that we're doing.
This looks good. What do you think, Brenna?
Good place for a hole.
Good place for a hole. All right. Microbes have the most important roles on Earth. Let's confine up top here. They drive the climate. They drive the geochemistry and biogeochemistry of Earth. They are all over us, in the soil and in the water. So the bacteria that live down here, nobody's grown them in the lab. We don't know what they're doing down this far in the soil. We don't know how they live. So hopefully we'll get 1 or 2 of them in culture.
You smell that? It's the smell of microbiology. I love that smell. Microbiology is working with the magical and the invisible. Everything is details. Do we have to record on the bags the depth? It just takes time and practice and patience. And being kind to yourself.
All right.
Especially if you fail. Success. Which will happen a lot in science. In an experiment, you get 1 microliter wrong of a certain chemical, and they won't grow. They'll just be like, meh, I'm done. My most recent project, the bacterium that I was working with, we were seeing if it released methane. Methane's bad. It contributes a lot to global warming.
The amount of work that goes into constructing these projects, from our perspective, is a lot.
Spent like 10 months of my life doing this. I would go after classes, working at the library, 7 hours, testing its growth curve. Over a month. I even stayed home for my winter break to work on it.
And then now in a bunch of the samples again. We had some bad news relatively recently for one of our projects. You know, the data don't lie.
We sent them off to test for methane, and we got the results back, and they are inconclusive.
Which sucks.
I was like, well, that's life. Failure happens. Things don't work.
People are like, oh, you should celebrate your failures and your successes. I don't know how you celebrate a failure, though.
Yeah, I don't really feel like
On to the next thing. I'm so glad that I gave myself time to grow into the person that I am now, because I'm now willing to put in the work now that I've screwed around long enough. Science, it does make me feel empowered. It's increased my sense of curiosity about the world.
So we're approaching the top of our critical zone observatory here. Actually head up to the top of this tower above the canopy of the trees.
I want to get into bioremediation. It's using natural elements to help combat contamination. I got exposed to that kind of work a lot, actually, because that's what my dad does. When I was younger, my dad would sometimes bring me out with him on his projects. There was a lot of mine sites there, a lot of contamination. It was making the kids sick. But you know, the person who really got me into the environment was my mom. She taught me the importance of nature, and I think, bless my family for being so patient and helping me along the way, because I was kind of a dumbass. It took me a long time to figure out everything. Oh my God. You should give yourself time to figure that out.
All of these trees are basically transpiring water back to the atmosphere.
How does this relate to the microbial communities in the more arid regions?
How are we different from the general public? So I think that we're not. We're not any different.
I kind of have to go to the bathroom, so we might have to make our way down. Watch out, guys!
Yeah, hands up.
Thank you for joining us here on Arizona Illustrated. Here's a sneak peek at a story we're working on.
None of us will have total control over this situation. This pandemic is worldwide. It's beyond the ability for any one individual to control it. But you can do something in your own small sphere to help you feel like you're getting some degree of control. And it's different for every individual.
I'm Tom McNamara. Stay safe, and we'll see you next week.